The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi everybody, welcome to the weekly Noyantis Usergroup meeting. I shall just share my screen, won't be 1 second. Okay, yes, welcome everybody to the weekly Noyantis Usergroup meeting. Today is the 11th of March 2019. As always, if you've got any questions or queries, problems or issues, or just want to generally chat about the products, feel free to raise your hand. We'll get the microphones open and we will cover the content accordingly. So, let's wait for some questions. No product releases for the last week or so because we were busy preparing for the training which we've just held. We did a 2-day workshop last Thursday, Friday. It went down really well. I think everybody enjoyed it, and we seemed to get quite a lot from it. So that was really good.
Oh, Andy.
Oh, hi, Bruce.
Andy.
We've got Bruce here with us today, actually, for starting.
I missed the training last week, Andy. Will you be doing it again?
Oh, yes, of course. Very good. Thank you very much, Bruce. Yes, the training was a bit of a, let's call it a practice run, if you will, to the training, exact same training that we'll be showing at CIDC in September. We actually mentioned it several times last week. It's really good. And of course, you get 2 for the price of 1. So you book your training and you get basically not only the Noyantis training, you get the Capesoft training, you get the recordings, get access to both rooms. It's genuinely, I know it's a figure of speech, but it really is a no-brainer. If you want to attend the CIDC event, which you really should, there are brilliant events at the best of times, and this being the 10-year anniversary one, it's going to be a good one. And yes, you get basically you get both sets of training. So it will be very similar to what we did the other day, but of course there's another 6 months between now and then, so we will be adding some other things as well. So even if you've done it once, it's definitely worth you maybe at least watching the recordings of the second one, and maybe go through the examples and brush up on them as well. So yeah, so really do try and attend if you get a chance. Where are we now? We've got Steve, who was at the training. I'm going to actually open Steve's mic if he's got one, put him on the spot and let him actually review it and see what he thought. So here you go, Steve. Put you right on the spot.
Hi, Andy. How you doing?
Yes, thank you. You good yourself?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Yeah, the training was excellent. Picked up a lot of good tips there, and I'm looking forward to receiving the demo app that we created.
Yep.
To have a play around and try and sort of re-jog my memory.
Yes, we did. The training, obviously you get the recordings from them and so on, as you would expect. We actually do walk through creating an actual application. We have various different snapshots, so you can basically jump steps if you think I know this and I'm not really wanting to spend some time on it. You get the snapshot, so you can just copy in over the top. So that's what Steve's mentioning there. We did them in Clarion, my normal IDE, Clarion 10. I'm not sure why it's 11 actually, because there's no good reason. But there's no reason why I've not gone to 11. But we do need to recut the training applications in Clarion 8 because some of the basically that's the lowest from an example point of view that we support. So we're going to recut the training content into Clarion 8, which of course then you can just open in 9, 9.1, so on and so forth. Sorry, go on, Steve. Please continue. Oh, was that it?
I haven't got it. All I can say, it was really, really good. And if anyone wants to get on the training, they should do, because you won't regret it.
There you go. Brilliant. Cheers, Steve. Thank you.
But Steve, wait, before Steve goes, I've got a question for Steve. You see, the burning question that's we're all really wanting to know is, did John behave himself?
Yeah, John did behave himself. Yeah.
I mean, I won't ask about Mary because I know she always behaves herself. But that John, I tell you, you can't hardly take him anywhere.
He was actually, and he didn't ask for too many birthday presents as he normally does do. So he wasn't too bad, to be fair to him.
Cool.
So, and then on the Saturday after we'd finished for the week, so to speak, we took John and Mary down to Woolerton Hall, which is just it's an English stately home, quite nice, but it's also
little cottage, a little country cottage.
That's right, yeah. But
yeah.
it's where they filmed some of the scenes from Batman Begins, and it was Bruce Manor, so it's where they filmed Batman Begins, and I think some of the Dark Knight Rises. So that some of the outside scenes and some of the inside scenes from Bruce Manor, Woolerton Hall. So we took John and Mary to that, which of course John loved and had his photos and so on and so forth.
And he didn't even have his costume. I mean, what's the point of going all the way and you don't have your costume?
He didn't know he was going there. It was a surprise. So he did say I should have brought my costume. So, but he couldn't find the Batcave. We did go down into the cellars, and he definitely wanted to find the Batcave.
Yeah. You see, you got to look harder. You just got to look a bit harder.
So, okay, do we have any questions? We have attendees, but we don't actually have anybody who's wanting to ask anything. It's going to be the shortest. Actually, we could do with being a short webinar today, if truth be told. But I didn't envisage this short. Jim Morgan. Right, okay. Just I'll bring Jim's microphone open. Hi, Jim. I think I know what this is going to be regarding icons.
Yes, can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Okay, yeah, I've had some intermittent problems getting my icons to show with the shortcut bar. I mean, I get some icons to show. I mean, I got the command bar stuff all, shows the icons perfectly, but the shortcut bar is intermittent, and I've just I can't figure out what's wrong with my settings or setups where I got it to work sometimes, and sometimes it just works partly, and so forth.
Well, I got the. I think you sent it as an email came through yesterday, weren't it? I think it was yesterday.
Yes.
Might have been Saturday, but so now I would like to be truthful and honest and open. I would normally say I haven't a clue there because, of course, the icons they just work, and as you would expect. But out of obviously a few users, quite a few hundred users, I would say there's no particular problem, except another user a few months ago reported the same issue, but they couldn't find any pattern, or basically they couldn't find the issue, they couldn't find the pattern or anything. It's just sometimes on the initialization, their icons would either be missing or out of sync. So, i.e., option 1 had option 2's icon and things like that. I did look into it, obviously, as you can imagine. I even put an example application together for them, and it worked as expected. So I didn't dismiss it, but after doing going through the code again, looking at it, I didn't find any particular issue. I will take a look. Is the simple answer. Yeah.
One thing I noticed that, in my previous tests, that it seemed like you had to convert the icons to uppercase or it would create some problems. And so I did that, but that seems to not be effective anymore. And also, I'm putting the shortcuts directly on the frame, which, you can't put an OLE container on a frame. You have to put it within a toolbar or window or whatever.
Yeah, which is all that template does, really, yeah.
Yeah, but the template seems like it handles it okay, and I know it's worked at other times, but yeah, I just can't find the pattern. And I went through all the icons. I mean, there's like 300 icons or something like that I'm trying to compile as resources, and I validated that all the resources are actually being linked in and stuff, and they're there. But it's like sometimes it gets mismatched and it's just not showing the right ones, and it is. Like I said, so I had it working at one point, and now it doesn't work anymore.
Okay, is it failing every time for you then?
Well, okay, right now, I think when I told you that I was getting intermittent problems, I think that was because I was launching one XE, not knowing it, and that one worked because that was like a previous version. That always works. So I'm trying to go back to that previous version and see if there's what setting is different in the source code. And but my version control at that point, I don't know if I got to do some things to get back to that version. But I know one of the things I did between the time it worked and now it doesn't work is I busted up this huge monster executable into like 7 DLLs, but the settings seem to say that the icon should come from the main XC, which is where the frame is at.
Okay, well, just going to mention what. So, okay, from an icon point of view, but an image. Let's go back one step, just for knowledge for people. Now, let me take a quick look onto the extensions. We'll go with doesn't really matter. I'll use a command bar because it's the same identical setting for all. So we have command bar, and you use your themes, so on and so forth. Do remind me actually in a minute, Jim, to make an announcement, 2 announcements, one of which you will like.
Okay.
The image resource. So you add the global extension. By default, it will default itself to the output. So this happens to be a DLL, so it's a update procs, which is the name of the app, updateprocs.dll, or it could be the application schedule it exe. It would be schedule it exe. So you would think, of course, I'm going to take the icons from whatever the output is. We do give you the option, should you want it to basically have all the images compiled into just basically imagine you shipped an image DLL, which didn't have any carrying procedures except for like an empty container, but did have all the icons compiled into it. Then you could load from that DLL rather than the current one. The example being there that you might have insert change delete icon used quite a few places on your command bars. So in that scenario, instead of copying that same icon into loads of different DLLs, you would just have them in one and load from that one. Not many people do it, to be fair, and I don't think there's a particular real big requirement to do it, but it gives you the facility should you want to. So if you've just cut up an exe into multi-DLL and so on, this is usually a step that people forget to go back and change. So do ensure that you have got the correct image resource specified there, because what we're actually doing, images, so the reason I said images rather than just icons can be compiled in. Images like bitmap and JPEG and PNG cannot, so they have to be loaded externally. So icons, if you start them with the little tilde type character like so, if you start them with that character, so something like insert.ico, that would automatically compile the icon into your application, but it would compile it into whatever the current application is. So update procs dot whatever. It wouldn't compile them into, if this was different. So we're working on update procs application. So of course it's going to take the icons by default out of update procs DLL. If you happen to change that and say, no, I'm going to have all my images in just one central DLL called images.dll, and all the icons are compiled into that, then you would have to manually go and add the insert ICO to that solution, to get it compiled in, and so on and so forth. So just check those particular settings. For the other customer, I can't remember. I'm going to say I don't actually remember if they were multi-DLL or not, if truth be told. I think they were actually. No, I do, because I asked them to send me the example and they could send me just the menu. So yes, so it was multi-DLL that. So basically the thing there to check would be, are you loading them from the correct image resource? And basically, just check that. And if you're compiling in the template, i.e. you put a little tilde before an icon, it will compile it into the current application's output, not necessarily your image DLL.
Right. Yeah, I checked that, and it's all they're all specified.
That's good.
And the thing is, it's like the high-level icons always work. In the shortcut bar, the highest level ones always work. It's just when you get down to the tree structures, the tree structure ones just are intermittent hit and miss. And that's that's the puzzling part about it.
I will take a look. It did very little on updates and so on last week because of the training and so on. But yes, the normal service will be resumed this week, so I will take a look. I'll just knock a quick example, multi-DLL example together. Actually, I've still got the one for that particular customer, so I'll just resurrect that. Try a few different levels, level 2, level 3, like you say, and just get it shutting down, starting up, and see if I can get it to play up. I know we did try last time, and we didn't really get it to fail, which was of course disappointing because someone's seeing it, and now you are as well. But we just couldn't find it. It's one of them typical, it's much easier to fix than it is to find in the first place. Annoying.
Yeah, and I'll go back to my earlier version, see if I can get it working again. And if I can get that working, I can do a code compare and see what's different. And I'll share that with you if I discover if I did something on my end. But it seems to me like it's almost like some kind of like a timing issue, or maybe a case sensitivity issue on the icon names, or something like that.
They shouldn't be the case sensitivity, because I know when we compile them in and when we extract them out, they are marked as upper. So they shouldn't really be the case sensitivity. I know we covered that right from day one. I will check and double check, make sure it's going that far. But all of this goes through our common class, so it's all good common code, which all of the products are built upon. So yeah. But we'll take a look, and we'll report back to you ASAP. We'll have a look this week for you. Not a problem.
Okay, appreciate that, Andy.
No problem. It's, as I say, we looked at it. It was a Spanish customer. Not that it makes any difference, but it was a Spanish customer a few months ago now. We looked into it, couldn't find anything. Of course, they still report it back and say, well, I still got it. And you take another quick look and you go, I don't dispute that, but I just can't find it. And then you have to then wonder, we've got so many hundred users and nobody else has ever reported this. So is it one in their application? Because they're actually changing the icons at runtime as well. So there was an added complication on that. So of course you can't rule out user error rather than just template error in that scenario. But two users, especially a very experienced one like yourself, reporting, it's not something we would actually go and dismiss. So I'll take a look.
Okay.
So announcements, which of course I think you might be interested. So we've got people here who might find it interesting as well. One of the things we said during the training, and we're going to launch them by the CIDC event. So they're not going to be overnight. In reality, they will be out way before then. Is on, let's take our command bars. Now, and I even in the training, I give credit to you, Jim, for this. We have a command bar. Actually, it's a bad example. That's not in that example. It's not in the application. But in the command bars, we can save and load the XML content to basically manipulate and design our bars. So, for example, let's just take our browse staff. We've got a command bar at the top of the screen in this application, i.e. like this. So we use a command bar as both a title bar and a navigation bar. And in the template, as we said, we can do the controls, export and import. We're going to go one step further there for you. We're actually going to, yes, you'll be able to use the export and import as you've got there now, but you're actually going to have a little visual designer. So you'll actually have a button on here to be able to click. It will open you up a command bar visual designer. It will take your current bar setup as you currently have, including the bars and the controls. So ultimately what it's going to do is the template's going to export it, fire up the designer exe, which will then read in your settings from your current window, let you paint your bar visually at runtime. So okay, I need a new button, I want a checkbox, I want a radio, so on and so forth, and then save it, and that will technically then export, go back to the template, and the template will import the settings automatically. So you will have a visual designer for your command bar. So, and I think it was yourself who did, you at least planted the seed in one of your things, I'm sure you did. If not, I'll just give you credit for nothing. But I'm
well,
sure
I mentioned something like that, but I try to go a step further. Rather than compile it in, I wanted you to make it data-driven, so the users...
no, it would be data-driven. Oh, you mean at runtime?
Yeah, runtime.
Well, first thing we're going to just do the design one and so on. Data-driven for the thing, that's right. which no, really wouldn't be hard to do that. The only thing you've got there is you wouldn't have the generated embed points for the likes of the new selection of a control. So someone's pressed a button, you want to act accordingly. You wouldn't have the data embed points of that.
Well, yeah, but what you do is you define your control set and what those controls do. What their actions are. Do they start a thread? Do they run a procedure? Whatever. So you got a list of defined controls, and they can pick from those lists at runtime, and then they should be able to manipulate the text and the images, or whatever, and manipulate the structure, the tree structure.
Yeah. Just trying to think. Yeah, and you would still pass through a standard embed point of code rather than under new selection. You'd always have the code embed point, which is a catch-all. You just wouldn't have the generated embed points of the insert button, the change button, that kind of thing. And the clone, you wouldn't be able to do the cloning because what are you cloning? It wouldn't know from that point of view. But the properties and so on and so forth, the visual designer, yeah, we could give you something like that from a runtime point of view. So there's
cool.
ways and means on that. But first things first, from a template one, you're going to get a visual designer. So I think that will at least help a lot of users to start with. So, and the second one was to do with the new report control. Well, not the new, but the next update to the report control. It's got basically you can place the report control. It's got the equivalent of the browse no records button and the insert change delete buttons now, print and view buttons and select button, all the things you normally have associated with what you consider a regular Clarion browse. That's out there and released now. The next build will actually include table as the source, and the code is more or less done for this. It's very close. We just couldn't get it in last week before the training. So you could basically place a report control on the screen and say, okay, this report control I want it coming from this table, but we've joined in tables as well, so it will write all the views for you, which is of course good. So we're replacing the Clarion browse control completely. So then the report control you'll just go straight with that and never use the Clarion browse. So and the reason I mention that is you will have a visual the equivalent of list box formatter. You'll have the same, so you'll be able to in the template press a button, open up the visual designer for the report control and build it there, and that will then write the code into your template for you automatically. So instead of having to go onto a report control and say this field followed by this field followed by this field, you'll have a visual designer where you can set your widths and your titles and your captions and so on and so forth. So that was one of the things we announced during the training. So they will be out. Command bars first, report control. Even though the report control is the closest one, the command bars first, and then the report control second. So we've got what's that? I've got Roberto just mentioning something. Let's get Roberto open. Hi, Roberto.
Hello.
Hi.
I was saying, where do I clap? On your graphic designer. I mean, we've been wanting all that since you do have a designer with the CodeJock tools.
Oh yeah,
we've never really been able to use.
No, it's
too
poor.
well, but
it's poor. Well, imagine it's that, but it'll be template friendly.
Right. But it'll send it to the template instead of using that
XCB
I don't know that. Right, which we couldn't really use because we couldn't interact with embed points and so on.
Yeah, so you'll get the best of both worlds.
This is really cool.
Yeah, so you'll get that, and I think the one for the report control will be really good now as well, because then you are getting, you are getting basically the replacement to the Clarion browse. So especially for the legacy users, you will have they will be file loaded only.
The other one, the graphing one.
Oh, do you know what? I've not even thought of that one. If you want the truth.
Yeah, I mean, it's got that really cool, designer with the graphs. You could, I don't know, maybe, I don't know.
Well, we are. most of it, Roberto, I think you're account number 7. You really are an older user.
5. Come
so
on, don't
5.
don't,
Sorry,
I'm go so high on me.
So do you know you're account number 5 of 912?
Wow.
Yeah, go figure on that. That's quite a lot. And I know that because we had a sale over the weekend on Saturday, and
All right.
they were the new user, and I created their account 912. But yes, you'll remember straight from the early days of all the manual work we had to do and so on and so forth, and I always steered away from doing people's data I/O from them because we're all different. We all have our own naming conventions and so on.
Right.
Well, that's changing. We are going to do your data I/O for you, but we're still going to leave you in charge of your own keys, your own table names, the fields, where when, say for example, the calendar's having a new data source of table, it will ask you what your events table is and what the field names you want to use. Not field names, which is the field. So what do you consider your record ID? What do you consider the start date? That kind of thing. Just like you do now with the queue. It will prompt you for all that, and then it will go off and write all the code for inserting records, changing records, fetching them, so on. So the similar embed points, which you do in every calendar embed point now, which every calendar we use now, for example, this is an application I'm just currently working on. So let me go to the diary of this. Dashboard, no. Oh, appointment book, there we are. So I can guarantee we go into here, and we'll have under the data, we've got the data delete record, data fetch record, insert record.
Absolutely.
The same code in every calendar we ever write. We put those 5 embed points in, and it's the same code, except for maybe the name of the table. So that will go. Basically, all you will have is on the extension, you go to the calendar, and just as you've got here, I don't want to break this application, but if we select queue, it says, what's the name of the queue and what are the fields you want to marry up to use? Well, you will have table, it will prompt you for the table and the key, of course, and then it will prompt you for the fields, but all of the generated code then will be done for you. So making it much better. So we are going to start doing your I/O. For the report control, you'll have similar embed points to the browse. So you will have validate record, just so you can go to that and return record filtered or record out of range, as you would expect now. You will have the equivalent of set queue record, but it will be set group detail. And that is where the template automatically creates you a group structure that it requires for the report control, and it will set all the particular content in that group prior to calling the add row. But then it goes through the embed point for you to fine tune any local columns. So just the same as you would with set queue record, you will put your code in set group detail, and or set, I should say, data group detail actually. But yes, basically it will replace the Clarion one. So we are going to start doing your data I/O, but not impose any naming conventions or standards on you. You're still in charge of your own data dictionary. Right. That's very important to me, that.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So yes, so watch this space. Really exciting time.
And the other thing I was going to tell you is that Ale does have the runtime in his report template, where he actually changes stuff at runtime.
I do remember,
with the menus and all that. Of course, it's not graphic; it's all command-driven. But but that is possible, and that is somebody's already working on that too.
Yeah, I think what Jim was on for the command bar was.
He wanted a visual designer. Yeah.
So. Well, we'll do the template one first, and then we'll do the data one afterwards. We are.
Yeah, I like this.
We want to get the most out of all the tools and make them, because they're already very powerful, very popular and very powerful. I want to just take that to the next stage now. Okay. So, we are 22, and I do want to try and keep it to within the hour today. So we've got a quick question there pending from Greg.
We have some things on with Bijan also on the QuickBooks, but go look at Greg first.
Oh, okay. So Greg is having trouble with manually loading recurring events in the calendar. Is there a video covering this? Greg, so I'll open the mic just in case you've got a microphone. Hang on. Can't find it. Oh, you're there. Sorry, couldn't find you. Greg, your microphone's open just in case you've got one. But yeah. Oh, hi, Greg. Are you there?
I am.
Good to hear from you. Long time no speak.
I'm having trouble hearing, Andy.
Can you hear me now?
I hear you partially. Yeah, it's a weak signal. But go ahead.
Okay, well, just saying, it's good to hear from you. It's been a while.
Yeah, it has.
So, yes, there is previous webinars on our YouTube channel where we've covered the calendar loading. I'll quickly explain it to you now. Basically, I would, in the calendar loading, go to the embed point here. What I would normally do in the data load events, I would clear the calendar. First of all, I will clear. Lastly, I would populate and draw, and then in between those two, I would have two embed points. One which loads non-recurring events, and one that loads recurring events. The non-recurring really just wants to load the dates between the two parameter range, the two parameter dates. So start at the start date, end at the end date, and that will basically be a very efficient way of loading the data into the calendar. For the recurring events, that you can't really do that, and that's because you might hypothetically, let's say we're on today, you go into the calendar and you have clicked on the 11th. So the start and the end date will be the 11th, and it will only try loading data for the 11th. So let's just show you in the example application. Let's just close this 1 second. Working hours, that's an example we'll look very quickly. So when I look at this example, I expect to see just something like I mentioned a minute ago.
Yeah, and this is what I've been working from, Andy. So this is familiar.
Okay, quickly run it. Create some recurring events. And I'm going to purposely just choose here the 11th and the 12th. So this load would have been called with a start date of the 11th and end date of the 12th. Okay. Or if I've got the outer range, you've got two ways to control the dates that get passed to that. The selected range or the outer range, e.g. the 25th. So the 25th happens to be the very first visible date. So the 25th of February all the way through to the 9th of June. Difference from those two would be if you are using the facility to bold dates with appointments, then you would want their outer range dates. If you're not using that facility, you would want the inner range dates. Make it more efficient. Back to your question of non-recurring and recurring, we can load the non-recurring at the 11th to the 12th because that's all we're looking at. So that's perfect. For the recurring, we could technically have, I could go back a few months. Okay, something like there. I will go to the 4th of June, 2018, and I'm going to put an event in called Greg Test. Put it as orange, and I want it to recur every day. Every day, but only on weekdays. So I'm going to do that. There you go. Now, if I was to look at that, we can see that. Oh, hang on. What was the end on that? Yeah, sorry, end at the end date. No, we want no ending date on it. So that is going to go forevermore. And we can see there's our calendar just been populated. And if we go to any of these, those recurrings are there. We jump forward to today, and that's still running. So it's forevermore until such time that we cancel it. So we can't load the 11th and the 12th, or here the 11th to the 15th, because that started back in June. In fact, I can't remember what date I chose then, something like the 4th of June. So what you have to do there is to load basically a bigger range. So if we say, there's the non-recurring, just as I said before, start at the start date, stop it when it goes past the end date. But for the recurring, basically, I would have a key saying the recurring type is the first part of it. So I can use that same key to get the non-recurring, and the type would be 0. There's an equate set up for you for that as well. And then for the non-recurring, for recurring, I would start at recurring type 1. Should really use an equate for that. But you can start at basically 1 and grab all the recurring type appointments, but you're going to have to go at 0 date, because technically they could start whatever the first date is you ever supported in your system. That's really your starting point for loading. You could miss out some records if, for example, I did go back, I'll go to November, I'll put something in here saying, okay, this is Greg test 2, give it a different color, and that's great. I want you to recur every day just the same as the other one, but I do want to end, and I want to end after 20 occurrences, so 4 weeks if you will, because it's only including weekdays. That's going to go in 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and then no more. So we've got the number of occurrences is probably a bad example. Yeah, that's probably a bad example. Let's go back to that and open the main one. And you have got this end date. And what you want to do is the ones where you've got an end date of it, that's where you could actually control it. So e.g. for your loading, you could actually say if the end date is before the range that you're looking at, then you could miss that record out, because it's not recurring anymore. So I'm looking at the 11th, and that ended back in December. So I don't need to include that in the loading. But that's about the only filtering you could do. The number of occurrences, that was a bad example I chose there, because you wouldn't know the number of occurrences, because the pattern they've applied they might have started it back in June, but it might be 30 occurrences, but it's only ever the last working day of the month. So you're going to have to take the pattern into account, and to try and calculate that would be very difficult. So you wouldn't want to do that. The only thing you can really filter on would be the ending date, if you had if the ending strategy was end date. But that's really the only thing you can do. So for recurring events, you're going to have have a key which starts with the recurrence type. Set it to 1, which is recurring. There are equates for this, but set it to 1, which is basically means it's at least some kind of recurring record, and then just go through and read those. There's nothing really else you can do about that, because you don't know which records are valid and which ones not, except for the ones which have a specific end date on them. I suppose actually you could filter out any which don't start yet. So if you're looking at the 11th to the 15th and it's not due to start until April, the 11th and 15th of March, and it's not due to start until April, of course you could miss that one out as well, because that's outside the actual range you're looking at. So you can do a bit of filtering, but only a bit.
Well, that helps. There's a number of different kinds of dates, recurring dates, that I want to add. Right now, what I'm working with are birthdays, so they're pretty straightforward.
Okay.
But I'm having trouble. I think it's in the local routine or procedure that you have to actually fill the group. I think I must not be adding the correct information in that group.
Okay. Has this got a prime? Yeah, it's probably got just a local procedure. But ultimately, all that local is going to be doing is here. Basically, you're going to want to prime this up, and you do have. Well, let's go to that insert. There you go. Yeah, but it will be loading the recurring type. Oh, sorry, you want that one as well. So you will want to store those. The reason the fields are called parameter 1, 2, and 3 is the definition of those parameters change depending on the recurrence type.
Right. I saw that in your classes.
Yeah, so they do change depending on the recurrence type. If it's daily, then I think the first parameter is include weekends. And for example, yeah, something like it's daily, so the first parameter is probably something like that. If I was to say it's weekly, then all of a sudden you've got two parameters. You've got recurs every so many weeks and which days of the week, which is a binary and. And then I think there's a third type, which is something like on the week monthly occurrence. So you can say I need the first, whether it's a day occurrence or a day type or an occurrence, and if it's a day, which day, or if it's an occurrence, it's the first of whatever, the first weekday, the first weekend day, and so on. And then you've got a third parameter. So the definition changes depending on the type. The CodeDoc help does explain it all, and they call them 1, 2, and 3. So we have followed suit on them.
Yeah, that was clear.
Oh, good.
And since I'm doing annual birthdays,
yep.
I think the first parameter is month, and the second parameter is the day, and the second parameter is month. And so I think I'm square on that, Andy.
Okay, good.
But for some reason, my events are not showing up, and I don't know what I might have missed.
Do check you've got those particular fields set, the recurrence type, and so on and so forth. Yeah, because you should, and it obviously just follow this the particular example application. But yeah, just check you are setting those particular fields.
Okay, I'll work on that.
No problem. Okay, now I know we said we've got a question regarding QuickBooks. We are going to have to try and be very quick. Did they say it was Bijan? I haven't got the question here actually. But I will just, if Bijan's there, I will quickly open the mic.
I think Bijan's busy, but I can do it for you.
Okay, so what's the question?
Yeah, we had trouble with the QuickBooks.
Yeah.
We're trying to get the local host to work. And I guess it doesn't, I don't know if it's working or not. And because I noticed you have your own server.
Okay, let me quickly look.
And so when I change it to localhost, I can just put up a little server, can't I?
You don't need to put, if it's localhost. If it's localhost will only work with test keys, won't work with production keys.
Right, so I'm using a test key.
Okay, so test key, you should be able to get away with localhost, but just I'm just on the other screen now. Won't be 1 second. I'm just going to log into my QuickBooks area, and then I'll just make sure you've got your particular settings. Just give me 1 second.
And also, is there a way to not use the browser? I noticed you in the class you're using the shell execute for the browser. Can we just use like NBit or the CodeDoc?
No, definitely not at present. The logging in, we had a quick chat about this with the training. The logging in could potentially be changed to make it easier and more streamlined. So leave that with us. Work is, we are taking a look to see if it can be done.
Yeah, because in Bijan's case, he uses TS Plus, and he's only sharing his application. And so if you
you're still going to need.
See, it opens up the browser, and they don't have permission to open up the browser.
We're going to we'll have to take a look. It'll be awkward though, but we'll take a look. Okay. Now let me bring this into.
We'd have to have put it into a window or something like that inside his application, and maybe it'll work that way instead of having to open the whole browse.
It could be difficult, but there's ways there might be ways around that. There might be ways of getting that if it's TS Plus, writing his own little browser app. So which is nothing more than the NBit viewer, mbit editor in a view mode. So create your own little exe and associate that with the HTML. And then when that opens up, that would open your application instead of Excel. Instead of Edge or Chrome or whatever.
Right, but you're doing the shell execute still.
Yeah, but if it's
Is there
associated,
any way to just open up a window and just open it up?
Not at present. I'll take a look. I'll see if it can be done. But to go to the local host, there's some settings you just better check on your application. Okay, so.
Yeah, what I did finally is that I set the URLs, the return URLs.
Just let me check my. Won't be 1 second. Want to make sure I'm not on show.
Yeah.
And,
I just created a new account, and it was a
I've just scrolled past mine, so there you go. So mine scroll past. Okay. Now, one thing you do need to check is you have added your local host.
Yeah,
here.
I had to put 2.80 for that to work because mine's on 80. And so if you don't put the 2.80, it doesn't work. If you just put localhost by itself, it doesn't seem to work.
No, it won't do. No, because it needs to be listening on a particular port and forward the information to a particular port.
Right, but you need to specify it 2.80, even if it's 80. That's what I figured out.
I wouldn't particularly use 80 myself on that. I just use a random one, but I mean, I just chose 3017 as a test.
Right, but the thing is, I was just trying localhost, but then it wouldn't work, and I finally realized that you need to add the port.
Sorry, just 1 second. So you would want whatever you've got there. Okay, you would want in your run time. Where are we? You would want here.
Right.
So yeah, you would want that without the port. Obviously, you put the port number separately, and use Sandbox. Make sure you've got that ticked if you're using your test keys.
Right.
But that should work for you if you're on localhost.
So you don't need a web server or anything.
No, not on localhost. But to use your production keys, then the output must be bounced to a HTTPS address. An
right. So
an
can you create a little web server, or add a little NetTalk web server to your application with HTTPS on it? Is that possible? And have it bounce back to itself?
Well, that's ultimately what that does. So, I mean, I can actually show you what that little script does. Basically, as per their docs, they say that you've got to go. So I won't show the production key, but you can see that will bounce out to that address. Okay.
Right.
Now, if I show you what the content of that,
but that's that's just PHP code. So you can put just your local host or what if it's not local host, it could be a URL. Okay, you create a URL with SSL or whatever you want to do with it.
Yeah, well, you
could do that.
Such thing as a secure local host, so you're not going to get an SSL certificate on a local host.
Well, you can if you make a domain name and have it be on your local host or your local machine if it's a server on the internet, and so on.
It's going to have to be on the internet because this here is what QuickBooks is going to use.
Right. So it's got to be a some kind of address it can reach.
Yeah, it's got to be a reachable URL.
Right, but it could be your own application working as a web server.
Of course, yeah. As long as it's got an SSL, which is something like Let's
certificate. Encrypt. Yeah, I mean, if it's just, you're right, whatever you want. It can be an SSL Let's Encrypt certificate if you want to, whatever.
Yeah, but what that does, it's still going to want to then bounce the information onto localhost.
Right. And that's fine. You can do that. You can just pick it up.
So yeah,
because you just need the token, right?
Yes. So the content of that, very crude. We'll go on to this machine. Where are we? Just 1 second. That little PHP script is not very big. It's very, very simple.
Right, and you could recreate that in JavaScript if you wanted to.
Oh yeah, you can recreate it in all sorts. So, but bring that into view here. So what we're looking at is that when you create your account, the app up on QuickBooks, you would have some kind of external address that we can see
Right.
up there. Now in my app, I said okay, it's going to go to that, and it's going to go particular port number. Okay, so then when you click connect, that technically then starts listening on port 3017 localhost. So even though it's telling to redirect to that address, the control here locally will start waiting on
a return for on that port. Yeah.
port. So all that PHP is doing is bringing it in and saying, okay, take whatever input comes in and forward it straight to localhost 3017. And there's the query string that's coming in. So which would be your token. So you mean, yeah, you don't have to use that PHP. You could write your own little NetTalk web service to do exactly the same and so on. Of course, there's multiple ways of accomplishing that. It's just I'm just providing that as a quick test way, to get you going. Of course, for your own solution, I would definitely recommend and encourage that you actually have your own. But
instead of having your own server apart, you could have your own application on your server doing the same thing.
You could, as long as that own application is answering external.
Right. Yeah, it's on the web. I mean,
it's on the web. Then yeah, you could do that. Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yes, just ensure that you have got. That's the PHP, and just ensure. Just let me close that. I'm on a remote session on that machine, the other dev machine. So just ensure if you're using the local host in your test keys and so on, you put the local host in there. No port number, no double quotes. No it's not double quotes. Sorry, no colon and the port number. Just the URL.
Right, just local host there.
Your port number with the sandbox, and you should get your connection.
All right.
Okay. Well, we are on the hour. That was Steve would just say he can't see the PHP, but we've got it there, and I'll email that out, Steve, if you need that PHP. In fact, I'll drop it in an email to you in a second.
It's really complicated code.
I think we're kind of on time. That's good. That's great, in fact. So if there's no other questions, we will wrap it up. We are here next week, the 11th, but then there will be a 2-week break. So we're here on the 18th. We are not here on the 25th, and we're not here on the 1st. So we're not here April Fool's Day. But yes, basically we're not here on the 25th, and we're not here on the 1st. We're taking a holiday, a vacation. So, but then we will be back here on the 8th as normal. So we're here next week, and then it's 2 weeks off. So, okay, thank you everybody for attending. Much appreciated. And until next week, I shall see you then.